ಮೊನೆಯ ಮೊದಲ ಪಾಠಶಾಲೆ ತಾಯಿಯ ಮೊದಲ ದೇವರು, saying in Kannada, which means home is a first school for a child and mother being the first teacher. Namaskar. Myself Sukanya Koti, research scholar with a co-author and instructor, Professor Dr. Vishal Khasgiwala, Dean and Professor Faculty Business and Commerce Department, Atmiya University, Rajkot. The topic is Empowering Mothers of Gen Alpha, Harnessing Social Media Marketing to Enhance Awareness and Engagement for Sustainable Development in Viksit Bharat 2047. In this paper, we are trying to understand what is Generation Alpha, who are born in 2010 and 2025. They are the first to grow up entirely in digital era and known as a digital native. This generation will be soonly counted in the list of the youth and contributing towards the national vision to be a developed nation on the 100th independence of the India. This generation should be well resourced, equipped and prepared for the same. Who is going to do this? Yes, Gen Alpha is lucky to have a millennial mothers who are educated, independent and highly aware of digital trend. These mothers are mostly focused on the career of their children, not only in case of academics but also they want to look into their extracurriculum activity and skill development. So empowering these mothers on the SDGs and the vision Viksit Bharat 2047 is very important. So who is going to do this? This can be done with a most effective marketing media, that is social media marketing. Social media marketing campaigns can empower the mothers towards the common vision. These are the objective of the studies. The first objective is to understand the role of mothers, how they influence the value and behavior of the Generation Alpha. The second one is SDG analysis linked with the mother role in shaping Generation Alpha. It may be related to the food and the health Generation Alpha is getting, their education, it might be the gender equity and so many other goals are being listed. Third one is social media marketing, how it is going to impact the mothers or how we are going to empower or create awareness. The study proves that more than 2 hours the mothers spend on the social media platform and they love to watch the content related to the parent tips and which will give them knowledge about the children's education and future. The fourth objective is to connect social media marketing with SDG goals or a Viksit Bharat 2047. The fifth one will be the proposing some solution and strategies for the same. These are some strategies listed on the basis of the analysis of the secondary data done in this study. The detail will be provided in the paper. To conclude, I like to say, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Thank you.
Namaste. I would like to appreciate authors Sukanya Koti and Professor Dr. Vishal Khasgiwala for writing a research paper on empowering mothers of Gen Alpha, harnessing social media marketing for awareness, engagement and sustainable development in Viksit Bharat 2047. As we all know that this is what an emerging issue nowadays. Kandhar Kids Can Report India 2024 revealed that children aged 5 to 14 are now spending almost 60% more time watching online videos than just 2 years ago, and they are spending their 8 to 12 hours in a day on online uses. So this study is very well needed study. One of the standout findings is that 69% of Gen Alpha kids in India now prefer digital gaming instead of outdoor games. As we know that post-pandemic, the digital engagement of children has surged. Their impact is felt across categories beyond traditional toys, reaching into food, consumer electronics, FMCG, entertainment and many more. Koti and Khasgiwala's paper focuses on Generation Alpha and their millennial mothers as crucial influencers in raising digital literacy and sustainability conscious children, and how social media marketing can amplify their impact. The paper correctly identifies their role in instilling values, including those of sustainability in children. This connection between partial influence and future societal behavior is well grounded in your research. The paper does an excellent job of demonstrating the significance of SMM in connecting mothers to educational resources, peer support, and business opportunities. This shows the multidimensional use of digital platforms, moving beyond consumerism to becoming tool of empowerment and awareness raising. Linking social media marketing to the SDGs is a strong point, and the paper effectively showcases how campaigns through digital platforms such as those under the Viksit Bharat 2047 initiative can amplify awareness of key issues like clean water, education, health, gender equality, and so on. While secondary data is used, the paper would benefit from a clearer explanation of how this data was analyzed. For example, was there a systematic approach to selecting the scholarly articles, government reports, and case studies? Providing more insight into the criteria for data selection could enhance the credibility of the findings. It might be helpful to include primary data, perhaps through surveys or interviews with Gen Alpha mothers to strengthen the paper's argument. While the paper touches on the effectiveness of SMM, it would benefit from a more structured framework to analyze the specific impact of social media campaigns on behavior change, particularly regarding sustainable practices. For example, how do digital campaigns such as My Clean India or Water for All influence mothers' decision about water conservation, water uses, water recycling in their routine activities or chores. But overall, the paper is very satisfactory and provides deeper insights about the platforms and about the behavior of millennial mothers and Gen Alpha. So I would like to appreciate both the authors for writing such unique paper and providing us a platform where we can emphasize on such titles or topics. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Surosree Nath, an assistant professor of Marwari University. Here I am presenting my paper titled Breaking the Cycle, Tackling the Child Marriage, Social Injustice and Gender Disparities in the Workforce. As we already knows that there has while the gender equality is specified by the SDG goal of 5 and must be promoted by the 2030 and SDG goal number 8, that is sustain inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full productive and gender equality at the same time. But at the same time, if we concentrate on the labor market, then we came to know about the 80% of the men is working, and while 50% in case of the female, we can get that the percentages barely exceed 50%. So if this labor force participation by the female has been decreased by 34% from 1999 to 27.2% in 2011-12. So if we get there has a many social issues or other things which hinders the female to participate in the labor market. There is one of the greatest point, that is the early marriage. In the less developed countries like the India, here early marriage has been a negative influence, which can be felt the negative impact to achieve the millennium and the sustainable goals by India by 2030. According to the Wooden et al., that child marriage is also affect the adolescent girls in the 5 different areas like fertility rate, population growth, health, nutrition and violence, educational attainment, labor force participation and productivity, and the decision-making power. Here we have given some social issues and the challenges that were faced by the female within the Indian economy. First point is the early marriage is one of the important factor which creates the preventions to for the economic development by India. It makes the large sections that the maximum percentage of women populations are not permittable to participate into the labor force. We are presenting the literature reviews something on the both the cases of the child marriage among the adolescent girl. First, the financial shocks has been the significant impacts the female child marriage and the educational success in case of Pakistan. This paper shows that the relation between the marriage market and the educations. Financial shocks can raise the girl's chances of the early marriage and the school dropout. So according to Pakistani marriage custom that the women receive both the dowries and the bride prices as a marital asset. Although it's unclear to how that the educational and the asset types related to the another. So here we get the point that what are the causes of the Pakistani low labor force participation rate of the female. Next literature suggests us that there are number of the supply sided and the demand sided factors that are contributing the low female labor force participation in India past of the few decades. And there has many kind of the reasons like the supply sided where the labor shortages, mismatches of the job between the job seekers and the job types. Women are generally work to the closer of their homes after marriage, and mother who have their first child are also prefer this. As a result, there has a demand issues as well as the supply issues in the labor market participation. Following that, the females from the Islamic families have the fewer opportunities to enter into the workforce than the women who were other religion backgrounds. So the question has been arised that what are the reasons for the decreasing rate of the participation of Indian female in the paid work? Next, according to the Baker, that the age of this marriage is also crucial and determine the accumulations of the human capital due to participation in the school educations. When the age of the marriage rises, then the human capital growth prospects also rises. Pointed out that the early marriage is likely to have the intergenerational result by the adversely impacting the human skill accumulations of their children. According to the Global Partnerships to the End of Child Marriage report by the 2017, that delay marriage and increasing the mean years of the schooling make the girl child more productive for their future, and they are becoming more productive for the labor market participation in the future. So, contributing to the greater national productivity, a higher gross domestic GDP, we need to teach the girl and raise the opportunity for the girl to continue their education. If we see that the past to present evolution of the child marriage and its continued impact on the society, then we came to know that in the 1891, the first legal intervention was taken against the child marriage. After the list of laws and the regulations have been formulated to tackle these means, the Child Marriage Resistant Act is also known as Sarda Act after the Bilal Sharda, who championed that the controversial legislations. It prohibited the marriages of the girl below the age of 15 and below the boy's age of 18. Later in the 1949, amendment was act introduced according to which the minimum age of the girls become 15 years and the minimum age of the boys become 20 years. If we get to know that what is the current situations of the child marriage of India, according to the prohibitions of Indian Child Marriage Act of 2006, that gives us the idea that the child marriage is identified as irrespective of the gender. It may be the girl or the boys who were married at the age of 18 or to 21 respectively. This table gives us the figure of the percentage of female who are when less than of 18 years and in the 2001 census data and 2011 census data. Here we can get that the India, the percentage has been decreases from the 32.1% to 17.2%. But if we look at the states like the West Bengal or any other Maharashtra and other states, there we get that this percentage has been increasing over the years. So, as a conclusions, we can say that in India, due to the patriarchal norms like the child marriage and the other social expectations from the society of a woman, from the woman, become the less empowered the household and the society also being result in the unequal participation in the labor force. In the rural Indian women have been also suffered from the sexual violences at the time of fetching water and other household work. Financial shocks become the significant effect of the woman's marriage and the educational success in the Pakistan. Because that the parents with the low income background think of a girl as a burden economically for the families. Poor families want to marry their daughters at an early age to reduce the family expenses for their marriage and try to minimize the cost of marriages. After the child marriage, due to the heavy burden of the household commitment, they get the lesser time for their self-growth and educational attainment. Due to low level of the education, they become unable to participate into the labor market. As the economy has been dynamic, so the productivity nature and the technology changes over the time. So become a proper human skills or human labor, we have to be developed over the time. So due to the low educations, they are unable to participate into the labor market. This is a kind of a vicious circle of the social norms and the poverty, which hinders the woman to become a self-sufficient economically. If this process continues for a long time for in the future, then it will be difficult for a few developing nation like India, Pakistan to achieve the sustainable goal by 2030. Thank you.
Namaste. This paper is written by Mr. Nath, and the title of paper is Breaking the Cycle, Tackling Child Marriage, Social Injustice and Gender Disparities in the Workforce. Well, child marriage ends childhood, as we know. It negatively influences children's right to education, health and protection. These consequences impact not just the girl directly, but also her family and community. Estimates suggest that each year at least 1.5 million girls under 18 get married in India. Nearly 16% adolescent girls aged 15 to 19 are currently married, while the prevalence of girls getting married before age 18 has declined from 47% to 27% between 2005-6 and 15-16. It is still too high. So writing paper on such topic is definitely appreciable. Nath's paper highlights the significant impact of child marriage on women's labor force participation and its broader implications for achieving gender equality and sustainable development. The key point delivered was the demonstration of how child marriage increases a cycle of poverty, and it is also considered as a social injustice, hindering women's educational attainment and economic empowerment. My suggestion is to improve in reference to the specific. My suggestion is to be specific and suggest the actionable policies for addressing the root cause of child marriage, as it is a very burning issue since the freedom. While the paper identifies the problem, it could be strengthened by offering concrete strategies for intervention, such as targeted education programs, financial incentives for delaying marriage may be launched by government, community-based initiatives to challenge social norms. Additionally, incorporating a discussion on the role of men and boys in challenging these norms would provide a more holistic perspective. So if you could collect primary data from diverse societies, including girls, boys, men, women, old age people, by and emphasizing on their psychology, their solutions towards this burning issue, then it will be more appreciable. So if you are further studying this, conducting research on this topic, then please try to broaden your primary data collection tools. Otherwise, overall, your paper is very well drafted and paying attention towards a burning issue, which is, and I request that please write more papers on such topics. Rest is all right. Thank you.
A very good morning to all my fellow participants, all the professors, and all researchers who are watching this video. My paper primarily deals with the qualitative analysis of the relationship between gender and climate. My name is Olipreya Das Sarkar, and I'm working as an assistant professor at Marwari University. Let us get a brief background of the relationship between gender and climate. We know that the world is currently experiencing a climatic crisis whereby the temperatures are rising, and the researchers all over the world are worried as how we can proceed with it. But the problem with gender discrimination has been persistent over the years. It has been carried on for generations and centuries, and even though it has reduced over time, it has not completely disappeared. So, in order to understand the relationship between the two, let us first understand what the current global statistics are. The Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that women constitute around 43% of the agricultural workforce, but they do not have access to land credit training, that is, the vital resources that are required for sustenance. This means that if there is any sudden disaster, natural disaster, or climatic change which are affecting land, such as drought, flood, etc., they don't have the resources to overcome them or to take care of them. The International Labour Organization report in 2019 states that on an average, women receive 20% lower remuneration than their male counterparts. That is, women who are employed in similar activities as the men are, they receive 20% less than the men. The Sustainable Development Goals also aim at removing gender inequality. The SDG 5 aims to achieve gender equality by ending all forms of discrimination. SDG 13, on the other hand, talks about climate change. And these are the two main objectives of the Sustainable Development Goals, and we will further look into the interlinkage between these two. The United Nations Development Program highlight that around 29% of global climate negotiators are women, but they do not have enough resources with them to take care of themselves or their families in case of any sudden disasters. We look into this topic with the help of three broad questions, which we will try to answer with the help of literatures that have researched on these topics. The first one is that how do environmental challenges intensify gender inequalities, and what structural solutions can address these vulnerabilities? Now, the first author talks about women as major caregivers in the household. Women take care of the family, take care of their children, as well as the elderly members of the family. But in spite of that, since they experience lower wages and they do not have much power in the decision making opportunities in the family and in the workplace, their vulnerability to environmental issues are more because they are prone to being pushed to the corner in their family as well as in their workplace whenever decision making has to be taken place, and thus they are more vulnerable to climate changes. Nightingale talks about a concept called ecofeminism, whereby women are more prone to natural disasters or natural changes. And this has been done with the help of a case study in Nepal, which shows how local forestry practices reproduce and transform gender roles. Agarwal in 1992 talks about how women in developing countries are more prone to dependence on local ecosystems. For example, in India, women are more prone to being more dependent on local ecosystems and for integrating women's voices in environmental policy making is important for them to have a voice in the decision making process of the society. They will be able to take more decisions in their own for their own benefit. They will be able to contribute towards the upliftment of the gender as a whole. The fourth paper talks about, and the most recent paper talks about how there is critical lack of gender specific data in environmental studies. That is, we have overall data, but there is lack of specific gender data, and therefore there has to be more robust data driven frameworks in order for more research to take place and for us to be able to analyze how women are adversely and more affected by climatic changes. Maisonneuve and Escalante in 2022. They have done a case study in Bolivia whereby they have taken that country into consideration, and they have shown how environmental degradation is affecting poverty and inequality more, and women are being more affected by these environmental degradation practices in that country particularly. In 2023, Okere found that the similar trajectory is being projected in the case of Africa, and women's economic participation is encouraged in order to prevent women from being more vulnerable from the climatic changes. Chanaka in 2014 have done a similar research with respect to Zimbabwe and its rural women, where they face severe vulnerabilities from climatic changes and resource scarcity, advocating that there has to be gender specific policies for women where women are benefited specifically from those policies, and because there is significant inequality with respect to gender when climatic changes take place. The second question is, how can integrating gender sensitive policies enhance the effectiveness of climate adaptation strategies? The first paper by Sway and McGinn talk about gender-specific adaptation strategies. That is, when a natural disaster or a climatic change is significantly disrupting life, there has to be gender-specific adaptation strategies where women focus on securing food while men emphasize on agriculture, highlighting the need for gender-inclusive policies. Chanaka in 2014 found that food insecurity from climate variability is worsened by climate systematic gender inequalities in Zimbabwe. It is a country specific work where gender focused economic programs can improve outcomes. Agarwal in 1992 advocated for feminist environmentalism to address structural gender inequalities, emphasizing women resource management and decision making roles. Duarte Valero in 2024 talk about the need for gender disaggregated data to craft effective climate adaptation strategies tailored to distinct male and female vulnerabilities. Shea and Dasgupta in 2025 found that women in low-skilled, high-exposure jobs in South Africa are disproportionately affected by climate change, requiring tailored labor policies. Pinho, Gomes, and Warburg 2025 say that societies with higher gender parity are more effective at climate adaptation, showing that inclusive approaches yield better resilience and recovery. The last paper is a proof that if policies are catered for gender specific roles, then it will improve the outcomes, it will improve policy outcomes, and it will improve the resilience and recovery in a particular situation. The third question is, what are the gendered economic impacts of environmental disasters and how can recovery processes address these disparities? The first paper talks about the Australian country where Australia's public sector gender wage gaps are widening over time, and women are more vulnerable to economic shocks during any natural disaster or any climatic change. Kirchberger in 2017 showed that natural disasters disrupt labor markets, with women disproportionately affected. Women are affected more in case of natural disasters, and that is due to their overrepresentation in precarious jobs, precarious low-paying jobs. Rodriguez Orega in 2013 has done similar work in Mexico, where he tried to analyze how hurricanes significantly disrupt the labor market in poor regions. And because women are more vulnerable, they are more affected by these natural disasters such as hurricanes. Bellasan and Polacek in 2009 show that post-hurricane wage recoveries in the US often exclude women. The previous paper spoke about how women were affected more by hurricanes. The next paper talks about in the post-recovery phase, how women are uh, disregarded of, they're excluded from the benefits in the post-recovery, and thus further widening the gap. Mueller and Kwitzenberg in 2011 showed that in 1998 Bangladesh, there was a flood which pushed women into informal low-paying jobs, and it thus widened the gender economic disparities. Osbergos in 2016 heightened that women in developing countries experience longer recovery times post disasters due to systematic resource and opportunity barriers. Huang and Zhong in 2019 identified compound health and economic risks for women from climate change, advocating for integrated recovery strategies and addressing these challenges. We can conclude by saying that we first saw how women and men do not earn similar wages even if they're employed in similar jobs. Secondly, we can see that women do not have access to resources as much as men do, thus pushing them in the more vulnerable side, as they are not able to take care of themselves and their family members in case of any climatic emergency. Then we can see that in case of any natural disaster, because of this economic disparity that has already been created prior, we see that women face more issues, and especially in developing regions, they're disproportionately affected due to systematic inequalities in wages, access to resources, and decision making opportunities. Environmental challenges such as climate change and natural disasters exacerbate these disparities, further limiting women's economic participation and resilience. What do we have to do now as policymakers? As policymakers, we have to prioritize equitable wage structures. We have to make policies which are centric towards women. We have to make policies such that this gap, economic, political, social, is decreased. It goes away. This gap goes away. Provide for access to education and training, and ensure women's inclusion in decision making processes. Initiatives like the Sustainable Development Goals offer a roadmap for integrating gender equality into broader environmental and economic frameworks. By empowering women through these measures, societies can unlock their potential as key contributors to climate adaptation, resource management, and sustainable development. These policies will help in narrowing the gap between men and women, both economically, politically, and socially, and will help women take care, uh, women be more proactive in the decision making process in their households as well as in their workplace, and face the atrocities of the climate change as well as the natural disasters. Thank you.
Namaste. This paper is written by Olipreya Das Sarkar, and the title of paper is A Qualitative Analysis of the Interlinkage Between Gender and Climate. Your research paper explores a significant and timely topic, that is the interconnection between gender disparities and environmental challenges. It effectively highlights how systematic gender inequalities accelerate the vulnerabilities of women to environmental crises such as climate change and natural disaster. Das referred case studies from diverse regions such as Zimbabwe, Nepal, Australia, South Africa, which adds valuable context and depth into the paper. It demonstrates the global relevance of the issue, particularly in both developed and developing countries, Your theoretical framework help in grounding the discussion in established gender and environmental theory, which adds credibility and academic rigor to the paper. Your paper is well in emphasizing the importance of gender sensitive policies for climate adaptation and disaster recovery. The conclusion effectively integrates the need for inclusive, gender responsive strategies to tackle both environmental and economic challenges. In certain areas, the flow between section can be enhanced. For example, when transitioning from the discussion of how gender inequalities exacerbate vulnerabilities to the section on climate adaptation strategies, the linkage between the two could be articulated more explicitly. This would help maintaining a smooth narrative and reinforce the central thesis. Paper. Future studies could investigate the long-term impacts of environmental disasters on women's economic mobility and social capital. This would provide a clearer picture of the cyclical nature of vulnerability and recovery. A suggestion for improvement would be to provide more specific policy recommendations grounded in the qualitative analysis. While the paper highlights the need for gender sensitive approaches, it could be strengthened by offering concrete actionable strategies that policymakers or organizations can implement to address the identified disparities. For example, detailing how women's participation in decision making can be enhanced or how resource access can be improved would add practical value to the research. So please try to add such type of examples or try to pay attention towards certain strategies, formations and models creation, so that it will help in implementing your research work in practices. But overall your research work is very well drafted, articulated, theoretically framed, and work is satisfactory. So thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohiyuddeen Hafzal. I work as an assistant professor in Sridevi Institute of Technology, Mangalore. The topic of my research is management strategies for SDGs, which is Sustainability Development Goals, a roadmap for 2047, which is the centenary celebration of our independence. So in the first slide we see that Sustainability Development Goals, a global agenda for 2030. By 2030 we would like to interconnect all the 17 Sustainability Development Goals with that timeline 2030. We want to achieve all those goals, which will help to the smooth functioning of the aim, which is 2047 Viksit Bharat. So for that we require a proper structured framework where we not only concentrate on national areas but also we concentrate on local aspects where the sustainability development goals are required to achieve. And I believe if we achieve in the local areas in the beginning, it will automatically help to the whole nation to achieve all the sustainability development goals. It is important so that it will promote, the significance of this is it will promote the prosperity and inclusivity worldwide through all kind of different partnerships. Either it might be with the same sector or with a different sector. So next we will move on to the next topic, which is Viksit Bharat at 2047, the vision of our country to become a developed nation by 2047 at the centenary of independence. So with that we need to address all the challenges and we should tackle all the inequality, resource scarcity and other climate aspects so that we can achieve the sustainability goals. Next, we should use the inclusive growth where we include all different kinds of segments together and work as a team. Next, we should leverage the opportunities properly where we utilize the demographics divided into proper tech advancements. Since everything is moving into a tech related aspects, now everything is becoming AI, so we should use all the new modern resources, and as far as possible we should make it useful for the society. And we should be self-reliant, we should not be dependent too much on anyone. Sometimes we need to have our own faith, and we should practice it by having a self-sufficiency. Next, align with the Sustainability Development Goals, integrating global SDGs objectives into national initiatives. By doing all these things, we can achieve the Viksit Bharat at 2047 vision, and we can happily celebrate our centenary celebration of independence. So next we will move on to the next topic, which is strategic management for SDGs, Sustainability Development Goals. First one is frameworks. We should have a proper approach towards the resource allocation and stakeholder engagement, where we give a proper leadership, where it promotes a visionary leadership to the sustainability initiatives. If the leader is a visionary person, he will automatically support the sustainability development goals, and he will make sure that it will get achieved. Next, cross-sector collaboration. Here we should encourage all kind of partnerships between government, academia and private sectors. Not only these, there are various other sectors. We should integrate each and every sector together so that we can gain knowledge and work together for the success of the country. Next, impact measurement. Always whenever we do any work, we should measure what is the impact of those decisions or those works. So it facilitates monitoring and evaluation of the progress towards the sustainability goals. So next we will move on to the sustainable management theories, which I have referred for my research. The first one is triple bottom line by Elkington 1997, stakeholder theory by Freeman 1984, shared value creation Porter and Kramer 2011, UN's agenda 2030 which was done in 2015, World Bank report which was done in 2022. All these things I have referred for my research, and I have used the secondary research methodology where I collected literature, proper literature, and identified the credibility of the sources like journal and other reports. Next, after that, I have collected the required data where I have segregated it properly as far as my necessity. Then I have done a thematic analysis where I extracted insights on leadership, policy and engagement which is necessary for the management. After that, which helped me to make a comparative analysis to examine best practices across all sectors and all regions, which resulted in giving a proper result, a validation for cross-reference insights to ensure reliability on the findings. So we will move on to the SDG, Sustainability Development Goals integration strategies. First, we should have a proper alignment where we align all the resources or performances properly. Next, we will give a proper leadership and governance. As I told you before, visionary leaders drive sustainability initiatives, and as I told you before, we need to have a collaborative models where we partner with different set of sectors, and which will help to initiate this good things. Then policy support. We should have a framework where we use sustainability development or sustainability practice in our company or in our organization. If not, it will not be used, the SDGs will not be used in the companies. Next, technology integrations. Use of technology is high nowadays. So with these kind of help from these technologies, what we can do is we can make sure that we motivate or make a proper announcement or reminder for the people by sharing the importance of sustainability development goals. So here we come to the sustainability goals practices in India. We have a holistic approach where we align everyone together and make sure we have a good collaboration between each other, and we address systemic barriers where we tackle the barriers and leverage strengths to achieve all these kind of SDGs, and have engaging programs for stakeholders continuously. Always maintaining a good relationship between the stakeholders is also necessary. Coming to learning and adapting. As a teacher, we always say that learning is a continuous process, not only in between the four walls, but also outside. There are lots of things to learn. So we need to learn wherever we get, grab the knowledge wherever we can. So by this I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you one.
Namaste. This paper is written by Hafzal and the title of this paper is Management Strategies for Sustainable Development Goals, a Roadmap to Viksit Bharat 2047. Well, we know that India's climate action strategies for clean and efficient energy system, disaster resilient infrastructure and planned eco restoration, acting on its nationally determined contributions. India has electrified 100% of its villages, reduced 38 million tons of CO2 emissions annually through energy efficient appliances, provided clean cooking fuel to 80 million poor households and set a target to install 450 GW of renewable energy and restore 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. Globally, India stands third in renewable power, fourth in wind power and fifth in solar power. India launched the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure and the International Solar Alliance to leverage global partnership for climate action and disaster resilience. Therefore, writing such paper which may address all such achievements as well as critically identify the failures to propose certain strategies and models for Viksit Bharat 2047 vision are always appreciable. Here, Hafzal paper effectively explores the role of strategic management in achieving the SDGs within the context of India's Viksit Bharat 2047 vision. The key point delivered were the emphases on strategic alignment, leadership, collaboration, policy support and technology integration as critical factors in driving sustainable development. A suggestion for improvement would be to provide more specific, measurable, achievable, mainly SMART goals, which are measurable, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant and time-bound recommendations for each of the identified strategies. While the paper outlines broad recommendations, it could be strengthened by detailing concrete actions, timelines and metrics for evaluating the success of these strategies. For example, instead of simply advocating for policy incentives, specifying the type of incentives, the target sector and along with the time limits or timeline with expected outcomes would enhance the paper's practical applicability. Your paper is very good, but my suggestion is this, that next time whenever you write paper which are addressing to the SDGs as well as nations, countries' goals, then please try to address, please try to be specific in your paper so that that will be giving certain roadmaps or certain clear picture to the policymakers also about their failures or maybe about their success. So please be specific with the objectives and outcomes while writing your paper. Otherwise, the overall work is very good. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Namaste everyone. Let us try and understand these two terms that are in front of us, Pratibha and Vyaktitva. So each one of us will face a very simple problem that at home your brain will not be of much importance and at your workplace your heart will not be of much importance, and we ultimately say that no, it is not working. So there is this one term given by Madhyas Darshan, there is this one characteristic of Swayata Manav which is very important for every human being to imbibe, that is the balancing or integration of Pratibha and Vyaktitva. When we say Pratibha, we are talking about the skill part, and when we are saying Vyaktitva, we are talking about our acharan part, our conduct part. So this concept from Madhyas Darshan led us to curiosity of understanding how different people are able to do it. So we did a comparative analysis first of all, and then we collected some primary data to understand what different people think about this concept. So as we can see that Indian, Western and Madhyas Darshan perspectives are considered here. So if we look at the Indian philosophy, for the integration of these two components, Dharma, Karma, Yoga, 4 Purushartha and Ahimsa. These are the concepts which are being considered with reference to, as I said, the balancing or integrating of Pratibha and Vyaktitva. In the Western perspective, there are so many theories like virtue ethics, Kantian theory, utilitarianism, existentialism and psychological perspectives. But Madhyas Darshan is talking about the very fundamental aspect. It is talking about these 5 characteristics of a Swayat Manav. If we do not make our graduates or our students ready on these 5 aspects, they will not be able to balance these 2 components of these 2 dimensions of their life, and ultimately that will lead us to the problems with reference to being underconfident, having stage fear, anxiety, depression and ultimately so many other problems. And because of which we are also able to see that maximum people who are working so hard in different directions, they are not ultimately able to be balance these 2 specific aspects. The problem is mainly about not being aware that these are 2 different components that I need to handle separately, differently. So confidence in self, you need to respect someone who is better than you in certain aspects like skill or behavior. We can learn it from there, and we can also there's a simple example that we can take in this reference is what we do usually is we take everything into our whole existence. Suppose if you are at your workplace and your boss is very if he or she is shouting on you, you will be like, I don't know anything, I do not want to work and I do not want to leave this job. But we do not keep it restricted to only the skill part. The same thing happens at home. So if you have any quarrel with someone, you will consider that I am not able to do anything, or I am not able to satisfy this aspect of my life, but ultimately it is the behavioral part that you need to improve upon. So only the simple awareness of these 2 as separate components can give you a lot of input in reference to how you should be dealing with these 2 separately. So with that, we have taken some data and we asked people how are they able to do it. Actually, there's this sansthan called Sanidhya Sthali at Maharashtra, wherein people who are doing this, people who are adhyanarthis of Madhyas Darshan, they are doing the study of this literature, and there are some families who are staying there. So we asked this data to those families, and they told us that they are able to lead a little meaningful life, and they are also able to lead a transformational organization that they are running there as a school. So understanding of these component, this integration of Pratibha and Vyaktitva can lead us or can give us the glimpses of how we can lead a transformative organization. So in that reference only we have done this research, and we could lead to certain findings wherein it is very clear that people who are able to balance these 2 components together, they are able to lead a little more meaningful life than others. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity with reference to this, and I'm actually very grateful to this all the people who have arranged this conference called Vedan, because of which we could have this platform wherein we can share our language, our perspectives like this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Namaste. This paper is written by Kanchan, Vadher and Janak Saresa, and the title of their paper is Comparative Analysis of Indian Western Madhyas Darshan Perspective on Psychology of Integrating Pratibha and Vyaktitva, to understand how teachers of CVMS school Parda, Maharashtra are living by this concept and leading a transformative organization. Very well title is very well drafted, and I must appreciate you first of all for writing such type of paper and actively participating in India's biggest virtual conference organized by Vedanta Education System. Well, your study is on balancing human conduct and skills. It's a thought-provoking and touches upon a highly relevant and essential aspects of human development, especially in today's fast-paced, result-oriented world. The investigation of Indian, Western and Madhyasth Darshan perspectives provides a comprehensive approach to understanding how skills and conduct, which is known as ethical behavior, interact and influence personal and professional well-being. You have very well integrated diverse perspectives of Aristotle, virtue ethics, emotional intelligence, and self-determination theory alongside Madhyasth Darshan. Your study is poised to shed light on the holistic nature of human well-being beyond just job success or technical competence. Researchers impressively presented Madhyasth Darshan approach, which emphasizes the balance of personal conduct and professional abilities in harmony with spiritual and ethical life. Researchers must address the much needed perspective that how the integration of ethical conduct and skills can improve organizational culture and individual satisfaction. I suggest to further explore that how Madhyasth Darshan can encourage spiritual and ethical alignment with work, which is rare in contemporary business or educational models. The study shows its potential for contributing valuable insights into how educational system can cultivate individuals who not only have technical expertise but also a strong moral compass to guide their actions. The focus on Madhyasth Darshan provides a unique lens through which we can explore how philosophical principles can be practically applied to enhance overall life satisfaction and work culture. Researchers can further explore their thrust area to develop measurable models that can propose some highly desirable engagement outcomes such as clarity of responsibility, job security, effective communication, and so on. You can conduct case studies to propose abled principles to balance professional and personal lives with professional and personal well-being. If proposed accurately and broadly, then this could be transformative for many organizations and educational institutions. So I would like to request you to conduct further research on the same topic by collecting primary data and developing certain models or certain principles, like we have 14 principles of Henry Fayol, Marco's need hierarchy theory. So like that, please develop models and principles which can be applicable in many organizations and even in educational institutions. Thank you very much. God.
Hello, I am Tuba Tasis, Assistant Professor of Economics at the Faculty of Management Study, Marwadi University. Today I am presenting on the topic Women and Climate Change with special reference to India at the prestigious international conference by Viksit Bharat. So climate change is a global phenomena which is happening at an alarming rate, and the most vulnerable region is the South Asian region, especially India. Climate change disproportionately affect the vulnerable and marginalized section of the society, especially the women. Women and girls represent half of the world population, and to harness their full potential, we require to give them equal opportunities and bring into them in the higher decision making level. According to the 1995 Beijing platform, the most important area of concern are women and environment. Women are among the most affected by the climate change. To put it differently, climate change is a gender dimension. Women are connected comparatively more to environment because of their caregiving role in the family. This paper tries to connect women and climate change by underscoring the effect of climate change on women's livelihood, food security, health, and labor market. So, our present paper is an extensive examination of the literature with regard to women and climate change. For this purpose, we have used e-database, Scopus, and Google Scholar and screened at least 53 papers. The time period of our study is 2020 to 24. After the preliminary screening of the abstract, we reviewed 34 documents total, and the keywords search are ecofeminism, women, climate change, labor market, women's health, livelihood, food security, and women-centric climate policy. Now, our research question is how women are related to climate change. That is basically ecofeminism, impact of climate change on women's livelihood, food security, health and sanitation, impact of climate change on women's labor market, and last, can incorporating women-centric measure help reduce the impact of climate change? First, we will discuss the ecofeminism, how women are related to climate change. The word ecofeminism was given by the French thinker F. Eubon in the year 1974. They are two concepts, ecology and feminism. The ideology of ecofeminism describes that suppression of environment is parallel to the oppression of women in the society. Ecofeminism is aroused because of the profit motive and the patriarchal driven society. And we have had various ecofeminists written in this regard, like Rachel Carson in her book writing Salient Spring in the year 1962. She talks about the devastating impact of pesticide industry on the environment. Also, the Indian ecofeminist Vandana Shiva has written about seed democracy. Um, these are the prominent Indian ecofeminists. India's connection with nature with regard to Mother Nature can be traced back to ancient time. Basically, the advent of ecofeminism in India happened through the Chipko movement in the year 1973 in the Himalayan region of Uttarakhand, where the women hugged the trees to be cut down by the loggers for clearing forest land for the development purpose. Another such event was Narmada Bachao Andolan, which was led by Meda Patkar to save the livelihoods of tribes living in the catchment area of River Narmada. Now we will talk about the impact of climate change on women's food security and health. Various study points out that climate change has disproportionate effect on women, and the most important effect is on their livelihood, food security, health, and sanitation. There are very scarce empirical study, but there are various systematic literature review which talks about this. Extreme weather events like drought result in shortage of food production, water availability, which makes the lives of women very challenging by increasing their workload because they have to walk long distances to fetch water, and moreover, their social obligations make them like make their time poverty. In this case, women and children both have less access to perception and health. Drought especially affects pregnant women due to heat exhaustion. Pregnant women often face health challenges in the form of fatigue, hypertension, dizziness, etc. So, looking at this scenario, we should incorporate gender in climate change, and various adaptation technique nowadays are not gender responsive. So women-centric environmental policies can help in this regard. Talking about the impact of climate change on women's labor markets, the literature is very scarce when it comes to especially the empirical literature when we talk about the climate change and gender inequality in labor market. Um, Inequality in the labor market arises when women do not have access to equal economic opportunity parallel to men. Climate change, especially extreme climate events such as drought, heat waves, floods, reduces the economic productivity, especially for women, as it increases their work pressure. Labor productivity and safety can be greatly undermined because of adverse effects on health, cognition, and decision making power because of higher temperature. The sector most affected by climate change is agricultural sector. This increases the risk of farmer suicide, or they often resort to migration in search of an alternative livelihood. This is being there is a phenomena which is being observed, that climate change led to migration from rural to urban areas, lead to feminization of agriculture. In this case, women are taking up more agricultural role because the men are migrating from the agricultural sector in search of an alternative livelihood. But the question remains, do this phenomena empowers women or reduces their inequality in the labor market, or it drives distress more by increasing their work burden? The question remains unanswered in the literature and can be a scope for further study. Now, talking about women centric climate policies, in today's world where climate is taking unprecedented turns and affecting humanity, we do not have gender sensitive climate policies, adaptation, and mitigation policies. Countries like Afghanistan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Sri Lanka have not yet adopted gender sensitive policies in their climate change mitigation approach. There are various reasons behind it. The first being the exclusion of women from decision making, especially when it comes to climate change, inequality in access and control over resources, the social reproduction responsibilities of women, subordinate treatment in social, economic, and political life is a major reason for their exclusion. So critics might argue that women already have taken so many caregiving roles and responsibility roles. So why we are burdening them with giving the responsibility of countering climate change? So this can be a scope for further study. So nonetheless, the above discussion calls for a gender analysis of climate change and adaptation and mitigation method, greater and effective participation of women in decision making process, and equal access to resources. Our study concludes by capturing the essence of the relationship between climate change and various aspects of women's life through an extensive review of the literature. So, nature has a close tie with women in general and rural women in particular. Not only climate change affects women socio-economically, but also has implication on their day-to-day life. In this scenario, food security of the vulnerable population get marginalized. Climate change also increases their work burden, and this has ramification in women's labor market outcome. So, to bolster women's empowerment and enhance their resilience to climate change, priority should be placed on policies aimed at addressing gender disparities in land ownership rights. Thank you.
Namaste. This paper is presented by Tuba Tasis, and the title of paper is Women and Climate Change with a special reference to India. A study by the Health Effects Institute found a 150% rise in air pollution related deaths in India over the past 20 years, with women potentially experiencing a greater burden due to their domestic roles. A report says women and children are 14 times more likely to lose their lives during natural disasters compared to men. Hence, for instance, during a cyclone preparedness drill in the state of Odisha, a state with a strong record of managing disasters, Gyan Ranjana Das, The managing director of the Odisha State Disaster Management Authority observed that women and girls are playing a more central role in managing crisis. The women and girls have been provided special training and support for disaster preparedness and response through a UNFPA project. Thus, this paper effectively explores the disproportionate impact of climate change on women, particularly in the context of India, through an eco-feminist lens. The key point delivered was the demonstration of how climate change exacerbate existing gender inequalities affecting women's livelihood, food safety, security, health, and labor market participation. My suggestion for improvement are to be specific while selecting such topics with reference to the creation of certain models or principles, so that your paper would be helpful for the policy makers, and suggest the actionable strategies for implementing women-centric climate policies. While the paper emphasizes the need for such policies, it could be strengthened by offering concrete examples of how these policies can be designated and implemented, by including certain measurable tools to enhance women's participation in decision making and ensure equitable access to resources. Let me put a question to ponder upon here, that given the complex interplay of social cultural norms and climate change impact, what innovative and context specific strategies can be implemented to effectively integrate women's knowledge and leadership into climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts in India? So such questions are still unresolved, and we expect that research papers titled Women and Climate Change with a specific reference to India can contribute towards these unanswered questions. So I would like to request you to further explore your thrust area with case studies, examples, by collecting primary and secondary data from the reliable sources, as well as by suggesting certain models, metrics, strategies, so that policymakers can refer your paper, as well as implementation in the real place can be more effective and implemented. Thank you.